Welcome to the Unbroken Arrows podcast. Today's podcast is part 2 of a 3-part series of podcasts that highlight either participants or team members from the Casting for Recovery retreat held at Ponca State Park in Ponca, Nebraska several weeks ago. Today's guest is Sherri Hoffman. Sherri Hoffman is from Omaha, and this is a little bit different of an intro because when I called Sherri, we just started talking. And before I knew it, we were 5 to 10 minutes into our conversation, and I hadn't even started the traditional intro for the Unbroken Arrows podcast. So this is a little untraditional, but I hope you enjoy today's podcast. So how did you hear about Casting for Recovery?
I heard through my oncologist and my plastic surgeon as I was, I was diagnosed in October. I had my double mastectomy in December, right before Christmas. And I was fortunate that my lymph nodes were clear, so they were able to go ahead and put the expanders in. And I did not have chemo or radiation, but I had those expanders in, trying to figure out what my new look was going to be like. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I knew that summer I would have very minimal use of my chest wall. And I'm a big golfer, and I have fished before, but I had never fly fished before. So it was very important for me. And then, of course, the grandbabies. You have to have that strength. Mm-hmm. And they said that there's this program out there called Casting for Recovery. And I go, well, what is it about? And they said, well, they teach you how to fly fish, but there's a lot more. And it's a lot more that we all took away from this program. Yes, it was fun to learn how to tie. It was fun to make our own little fly fish lures. And it was fun to have our guide. Steve was amazing, and he even had, our stories. We talked about our kids, but the first conversation we had is, what got you into this, Steve? And he goes, well, my wife is a breast cancer survivor, and her name is Sue. Mm-hmm. And we started talking about that, and we built that relation. And we were together for 3 hours, but it seemed like at the end of that 3 hours that we had known each other for years. Just because it was easy to talk to him, mm-hmm. and easy to, we were outside. It was beautiful. We some people caught fish, some people didn't. I was one of the ones that didn't catch a fish, but I was okay with that because it wasn't about catching a fish. It was about the experience and learning how to refamiliarize your body with those movements, and not the fear of, am I going to pull a muscle? Am I going to hurt? It was just so much more.
Well, you mentioned that you're a golfer and that you fished before, but the outdoors, then obviously you spent a lot of time outdoors. So, what types of events over the weekend were it was a mixture of outdoor activities and then also being able to hear the different types of support systems that are available to you and others.
Right.
Just kind of an overview of what the weekend was for you.
Sure. So I just want to start when I got chose. They said that there would be ladies from all different parts of the state. And if I was interested in carpooling, and I said yes, and I would be interested in even driving if it made sense for others. Mm-hmm. So that was the first experience. Was I met up with 3 ladies who I didn't know, and we jumped into a car, and we drove 2 hours from Council Bluffs to Ponca State Park. We didn't know each other from Adam, but we had one common thing, and that was breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And so to jump in a car and not know these ladies and to have conversation and, the joy of meeting, and they get you. They understand our journeys might have all been different into the course of treatment and when we were diagnosed, and if we had radiation or chemo or expanders or we chose to go flats. Those were all things that we looked different, but we all had breast cancer. The moment we got to Ponca State Park, we were treated and cared for the whole time. Doors are opened, smiling faces, welcome. We were given kind of a little goodie bag that included a blanket and a little casting for recovery, water jug that we could put water or coffee or whatever we wanted in it, and a t-shirt and a hat. I mean, we were just embraced with a bunch of love. And at that time, it was getting acquainted with the other ladies. There ended up being 15 of us. And throughout, where are you from? When we were diagnosed, found out what cabins we were going to be in. We got our fishing's license. And then we went to our cabins and kind of unpacked and unwind. And then we met up for dinner that night, which was, the food was great the whole time. I mean, they kept us eating. And you could eat a little bit, you could eat a lot if you wanted to, but the food was always there. Snacks were there. And then that first night was a kind of a fun night outside. I'm from Millard, and when you're in the city and you have the street lights, you do not see the stars like we saw that night. And it was just amazing. I spent most of the night in my chair leaning back and looking up and going, wow, this is amazing. And my family doesn't camp very often, but maybe that might be something we might do, is to spend a weekend and go up there. The smell of the campfire, we had s'mores, we did a cute little 2 truths and a lie when we went around, and just hearing the noises and just nature in general. It was just amazing that night. We went back to our cabin. Most of the cabins were either 3 to 5 ladies. And we did a little bit more socializing within just that small group. We had our own rooms. The cabins were very nice, clean, just a whole, I mean, I had never been to Ponca State Park before, so I wasn't sure what I was expecting. But just the whole program and how they put that together and gave us, and were able to give us our own room in our own cabin. The cost for these retreats is about $20,000. And Nebraska holds 2 retreats a year, and they hold it for breast cancer survivors, and they have now started holding it for metastatic breast cancer. And that's real special because that allows another 15 to 18 ladies to experience this. Saturday morning was a nature walk. We met up by the lodge, and there were bird feeders and squirrels, and you could go out to the platform and see the river and just hear the sounds, a cup of coffee and just snuggled blankets. And we went on kind of a little nature walk, which was kind of fun. And then we went and started group photos, and each cabin kind of did their fun little thing, respecting the animal of the shelter. We were red fox, so we did little fox ears, and that was kind of fun to kind of enjoy that with the ladies and come out of some comfort zones.
Right.
And then the whole morning was spent on just understanding what fly fishing is. And I didn't realize how many different knots you had to learn how to tie, and how strategic you are into, putting the knots together and what knot went where, and how that holds your lure. And of course, Steve, my guide, he could just take them on and off, real quick, where I probably would have been there for half an hour, 45 minutes tying the knot. But that was a new experience and a lot of fun. And they broke it down real easy to learn. They had people around the room that could help you. They were doing it left-handed, right-handed. And then we went into our warm-up exercises, which that taught us how to pretty much cast. And, some of us were thinking we're going to go all the way back to like 3 o'clock and go to, 9 o'clock. And it was more of it was fun because they used the dinosaur, the little short arms,
Right.
and from 11 to 1. And so there was a lot of where we were nervous, what is this going to do? Is it going to hurt us? And it was the most relaxing, rewarding kind of motion. And we were out there in front of the lodge, and there was 15 of us, and we got to build our rod, we got to string, and we basically were just practicing for a good hour. And that led us into what we were going to do the next day. And that's when we were with our guide for about 2.5 to 3 hours.
And I was speaking with a retreat participant here earlier, and being born and raised in northeast Nebraska, you had probably, and I was there to observe Sunday morning, you probably had one of the most or near perfect mornings that I've seen in northeast Nebraska. No wind. The temperature was wonderful, and your fishing surface on your pond was like a mirror.
It was a mirror. I'm being told that maybe if we would have got out there a couple hours earlier, that we would have caught some of those fish that we saw flying out of the water when we were on our nature walk. But it was what it was.
It's not all about the fishing, right? And that's the sentiment that I heard while I was there, was that the camaraderie. I was taken by when you all came and met your guides, and you took a group picture, and I could sense apprehension, a little bit of that. I could sense the excitement, but it seemed like the camaraderie was there almost immediately.
Yeah,
the connection was made.
They say that they took our personality and what they learned from our when we applied, and then they were able to fit us with certain guides that they felt would make us comfortable. And I knew I wanted to have the whole experience, so putting the waders on and getting in the water was something I wanted to do. So I told Steve, we're going in the water. At one point, I kind of fell in the water, but I was okay because I got the whole experience.
Sure.
Steve says he caught me, and I said, well, we kind of caught each other. So that was probably our fish story for the day.
Well, it's being outside and using nature, using the outdoors as part of that healing process is something that I think that the Casting for Recovery group and the retreat, I think it really does a nice job with fulfilling that type of mission.
Oh, absolutely. I've gone to some other programs and events, and to sit in a chair and listen to people speak. There's certain things that you take away from that, but you hit the nail on the head when you said it's something about being outside and just the sun's beating down on you. I remember when I had my surgery on December 21st, on Christmas Eve, I was sitting outside in a short sleeve, button-down pajamas and my slippers, just letting the sun hit my face. And it was just something about being outside. So this retreat is amazing to that, to where a good portion of the time you're outside. If you're not fly fishing, you're out in front of the campfire, you're walking in nature, you're just out, enjoying the scents and the smells and the fresh air. And there were times where we could see the fish jumping in the pond, and we were, probably a football field away. And it kind of got us excited about wanting to fish. And I don't think anybody in the group was scared. I mean, yeah, we looked funny in our waders and had a hard time putting them on or getting them off, but it was all about the experience.
And you got to share it with somebody that you were having a shared experience with. You mentioned that, and my previous guest, Lisa, mentioned that as well. No two stories are the same. No two experiences are the same. But you have the common thread of going
Mhm.
through the experience of breast cancer together.
Right.
And those times where you're able to experience those moments outside, those moments in nature, when it's a shared experience, it makes them more vibrant, more memorable, and
Mhm.
and more special.
I mean, we have some that we knew were hurting in their current treatment. So we knew I'm a hugger, that I couldn't hug a couple of the ladies, and that was hard for me to not give someone a hug.
Mm-hmm.
There were some that were finding about resources and connections by just coming to this retreat because they had not gone on any other retreats or opportunities. And to hear that they just didn't know. And that's, I think, the biggest thing as a breast cancer survivor and thriver is getting the word out about these programs. So one can go and attend these and walk away with a sense of, first, I did this, and then the tools and to have more support people there for them.
One of the most important parts of the Casting for Recovery retreat is that they bring in supports. They bring in people to speak to the journeys that you share. They also talk about the different types of supports that are available. If you would speak to that with regard to the different folks that are there in a support role.
So there was one part of Saturday afternoon that it was called Ask the Meds. And this was kind of an eye-opener for a few of us in the program that I knew where they were doing their treatments at. But there were others from smaller communities that just didn't know what to ask or who to ask. And so they had us write down questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we had two medical professionals in that group that were able to field questions. And it's just one question led to the answer, and then another cancer survivor would say, well, what about this? And it's just, we had no problem filling that 2 hours of just constant, well, what about this? Well, I use this. Well, what do you do for this? And there was one part in my healing process, which was a very big part of my emotional recovery, was after I had my expanders taken out and had my implants put in, I still looked at myself with these scars.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't complete. I wasn't back to as best as I could be, as trying to be who Sherri was before breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And my plastic surgeon said, well, have you ever thought about getting tattoos? And I go, I'm not a tattoo kind of person. She goes, I want to show you some pictures. And it took me a year and a half, and I finally did it. And the minute I had them done, I went to the mirror and I just started crying. And the gentleman who put them on said, are you okay? And I go, I just am kicking myself that it took me that long to get these done instantaneously. And so that was one thing we talked about. And I'm an open book. I'll tell anybody about my journey if I feel it's going to help them heal or pursue, their journey and forward steps. But I've had about 6 or 7 ladies that have gotten tattoos since then, and they've gone through the same experience that I did, from an emotional, not only with yourself, but with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
It was just amazing. And so those were things that we learned in the Ask the Med session. The other part was that there was a gathering where it was more spiritual and hopeful, and where we were able to kind of speak about our experience and speak about our time with the ladies. And, some people were angry. Some people were okay with where they were. Some people were very hopeful. Some people were very nervous. And we were able to come together as a group and say, we're here for each other. We now have this core communication that you can throw something out there and one of us is going to answer.
Right.
One of us is going to pray for you.
It's a safe place. It's a safe place to share.
Safe place, exactly. And so now I have 15 new breast cancer sisters that, we're going to be there for each other. And it's amazing on the networking that we've already done since the retreat. And we're not even 2 months out of the retreat, but we've had milestones of people having scans. We've had milestones of one going to the doctor. I know I get my blood work up in a couple weeks, and so it'll be the same thing where your anxiety and it's all built up, and then you get those results. But we all walked away from that retreat in a better place.
Well, and that was my next question: is in reflection, what did the retreat mean to you? What was the thing that maybe you came away with that impacted you the most?
Although I did not catch a fish, it was not about the fish. It was about the experience about learning about fly fishing, that maybe I can show my kids or my grandkids that you're okay coming out of a comfort zone and trying something new. The biggest thing for me is I've got 15 new sisters, and I've got a whole host of volunteers that I know are in your corner. And if there's a program that I can go back to any support group or any doctor and say, we really need to get the word out for women to know that are experiencing breast cancer about these programs. It's just not a flyer in a folder that they get when they're diagnosed with breast cancer, because that day you're inundated with so much. And it's got to be a little bit later to where they've now gone through their treatment, and this is a retreat that would be good timing for them.
You took the question from me. I was going to ask, what would you do if someone was listening that would maybe be experiencing their own journey with breast cancer, or a listener that has a family member that they know is going through this experience? What would you do to encourage them to look into, maybe not casting for recovery, any type of program that would use the outdoors or nature to help them along in that healing journey?
Oh, that's a huge question. From day one, I have been all about awareness at my work, my family, my friends, and I have tried to latch on to any type of healing mechanism that makes someone's mind, soul, body better. Breast cancer takes a lot out of you and takes a part of you. And so you're trying to build yourself back. Being outdoors, I have a covered deck on the back of my house. Thank God I had it. I can sit out there if it's raining, sunny, winter. I've got fire pits. Being outside and doing my daily devotions, listening to the birds. Cardinals are a big part of my healing process because I feel that that's my mom and my grandma talking to me. And they've been a big part of my healing. But I am just another, every time I go to any type of breast cancer event, I always go up to the volunteers and the people that are putting it on and say, if you need someone to spread the word, if you need any help, please call me, because I will let them know. And you can give my name and phone number to people. Not very many people will do that. Some people are very reserved. What can I do for the next person? What can I do for the person who's hearing the words, you have breast cancer today? What about the person who just lost someone to breast cancer? How to make that family heal? And then for those that have not heard those words yet, what can we do to make things better for them in days and years to come?
I think that's very honorable on your part, and thank you for doing that, because from my experience, my wife died as a result of ovarian cancer, and there were so many people, part of our lives
Yeah.
during that time that
Hmm.
helped
Right.
helped to comfort
Right.
what the shock was part of it,
Hmm.
and then the journey itself, although the journey was
Yeah.
short. But,
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Bless her.
well, thank you. If I can ask you about your journey with breast cancer, one of the
Sure.
things that with Holly, my first wife, with ovarian cancer, there really were no symptoms. And so
Hmm.
it came as a shock when the diagnosis came. In your journey or others that you're aware of, what are some of the symptoms, or what are some of the things that a person can do to help be proactive with regard to breast cancer?
Well, definitely when we hit that age of 40, mammograms are very important. I highly suggest, if they're not going to an OBGYN or someone who can perform some of those pre-screening tests, to find one and find one quickly. Awareness of your body. Looking back, I question, did I eat something wrong? Did I eat too much red meat? Did I not drink enough water? Did I not exercise? Am I 20 pounds overweight? I don't know. I kept, and through programs like that, I had to stop that path
Right.
and accept where I am today and what can I do for others and myself going forward. The awareness platform has been big for me both in my work. I was on the day I was diagnosed. I'm the only female warehouse manager at Nebraska Furniture Mart in Omaha. And I knew exactly where I was in the warehouse, what door I was at when the radiologist told me the words, "You have breast cancer." And I looked up and saw a gal who had just gone through breast cancer. And she knew exactly what I had just heard and deterred me into an office. And I just let it out. And about 5 minutes after I heard those words, my OBGYN called me, who I had had about a 27-year relationship with. And she said, "What's your plan?" And I said, "I have no idea what my plan is. I haven't even called my husband." And she said, "Your plan is my plan, or was my plan." And I didn't know. I mean, I see her once a year,
Mm-hmm.
and she had just gone through breast cancer, which led me to all the doctors. So I had a lot of those decisions made for me, and the support groups were already starting. You talk about friends and family. My husband and I do a lot of mentoring and coaching, and so we were the givers. And my sisters sat me down and said, "You have to stop giving. You have to start receiving now." And they set up meal trains, and I got gift cards and finances. So that's my way of paying it forward. I just sent a devotion book to a lady that I don't even know, but a
Mm-hmm.
friend of mine who's very close and near and dear to me knows this gal, and I sent her this devotion book, and I got a text from her today and said, "Thank you for that." And I'm just trying to pay it forward from that standpoint. So it's very important. October is breast cancer awareness, and I wear pink every day. And my family's like, "You're wearing pink again today?" And I go, "Yes, I will wear pink every day." I'm a Chiefs fan, and I have a Travis Kelce pink jersey because my kids know how important pink is for me now.
And in the email that you sent me, you
Hmm.
included a picture of your hand and your fingernails,
Yes.
that
Yep.
also showed the support.
Yep. I have pink nails on with sparkles and toes and my bracelets. My husband has not taken his bracelets off since day one, and we won't, because we're still we're still not out of the woods yet. I I'm yeah, it's kind of emotional thinking about it
Mm-hmm.
because both my tumors were invasive, and even though my lymph nodes were clear, but they could be sitting somewhere in my body right now,
Mm-hmm.
just waiting to erupt. So I'm taking some cancer prevention medicine, which, I get hot flashes, I get neuropathy. I mean, those are all the things that you can't really describe to someone until they experience it.
Well, you mentioned earlier the cost for the weekend retreat, and I want to make sure that our listeners know that when they hear stories like this, there are organizations out there that you can support. Casting for Recovery is one of them. Castingforrecovery.org is the website, and on the website there's a ways to help, whether it's to donate, to volunteer. There's a variety of ways to give for or to organizations like this. And, to be honest, it can't happen without the support from others and the support from the volunteers that are there. The guides, those that came to fish with you. I had the time to visit with several of them prior to your Sunday fishing event. And like yours, they all have a story. They have a story as to why they're there, why this is important to them. And you're right, there are many of them that have been volunteering to do this for years. Talked to a gentleman that drove from North Platte. And, that's halfway across the state. Well, no, it's not halfway. I used to live out in Ogallala. That's across the state, folks. Because it's important to them.
Right. Yeah, one of the last gifts that they gave us the day of the luncheon after we went fly fishing was a picture of our group and a certificate that we completed, Fly Fishing 101. And then inside a box was a pink lure that was made by someone who had gone through the program. And I turned knowing that my guide, Steve's wife, was a breast cancer survivor, and I gifted it to him to take to his wife and thanked him for that special 2-3 hours that we had together, and for his time that he, felt that he needed to be part of this program, and what it meant for me to meet him that day and spend that time with him.
The Unbroken Arrows podcast, it was an idea that I had years ago, and as life happened, I lost my wife to ovarian cancer. My co-host, Catherine, my stepdaughter, lost a sister to leukemia, lost her father to suicide. My father lost his life as a result of prostate cancer. Cancer is one of those things that impacts all of us. And you just have to ask the question. You have to have the conversation, and, everybody has a story. And the mental health aspect of once you hear those words, as you said, that you had somebody that could tell by the look in your eyes that they needed to say something, they needed to reach out to you at that moment. The American Legion has a program now called Be the One to help reduce veteran suicide. The programs that are available, the supports that are out there are things that sometimes people refrain from taking part of. On the Casting for Recovery website, it says that 70% of the participants of these retreats have not sought support group assistance. And I think it's one of those things that if people just take the time to realize that they're not alone, maybe that percentage can be decreased, and allow yourself to be vulnerable and ask for help.
Within the 15 ladies, we all came from different parts of Nebraska. There was one gal that actually lived in Nebraska most of her life and just recently moved to Kansas, and she drove up. She had like a 5-hour drive. And the one main takeaway that we're all going back to is when we go see our doctors it's understanding on how do we get the word out. Give us some of those brochures. You know, I learned just by asking. One day I said, you know, I've gained this weight. I got to figure something out. I'm trying to exercise. I found out about the Live Strong program at the YMCA. Well, that was something we talked about when we were asking the meds. People were like, Live Strong program, tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it's just what you learn from word, but you have so many that are advocating only they have themselves. They don't have friends and family, and you really find out who your friends and family are when you have this diagnosis, because some don't know what to say, some don't even want to talk to you, and then others embrace it and say, how can we help? And so knowing that I am a cancer survivor, I'm here to help those others that maybe don't have that voice. And what can I do to share this information so they have the voice and they have these programs, because they don't know about them.
Right, and something that you just said resonates with me from my own personal experience that I maybe you'll get into in another podcast. But for those of you that maybe have a friend or a family member that maybe has had a diagnosis, this is not the time to be silent. This is not the time to, they don't want to hear from me or they don't want to talk to me. I would say it's the opposite. I think that being able to talk about it is something that needs to happen. So don't think that a phone conversation, it may not be the right time the first time maybe that you reach out, but don't stop. Your friends are your friends, and they need and family members, they need you throughout the whole process, the whole journey. So don't not reach out because you think that it's not the appropriate time.
Well, Greg, you are doing an amazing thing. You're doing an amazing thing, memory of your wife and all of those who you told me you have lost. I lost my mom at 66, 12 years ago. So my diagnosis week is a hard week for me, and I just got over it. October 2nd, my grandbaby girl just turned 1. So October 3rd is my birthday. October 5th was when I heard the words, you have cancer. October 6th is my mom's 12-year anniversary, and October 9th was my grandmother who lived to 100. That was her 4-year anniversary. So the first week of October was not a good week, and that baby was born and brought newness and brightness to the beginning. And so that's all what I'm doing now is what can I do to turn that week. So
I also think that, faith is important. Everybody has a different approach or different way, but faith looks different for everyone. But I think that it's an important part to heal, to have a faith, and that faith may look different for everyone.
Right. I mean, I was gifted this 365 daily devotion. Her name is Joyce Myers. You can pick it up on Amazon for $7.14. And I have read it, 365. This year I took a journal and said, I'm going to read my devotion, I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to give my reflection. And I take that. So I just went to California for a few days with my daughter and daughter-in-law and her mom. And instead of bringing the book, I just snapshot, those daily devotions. But I brought my journal with me. And I went outside. I was standing in the winery. I'm reading my devotion. And I'm gazing at, stars and wine, grapes. And that's important for me. It's important. And my family knows Mom's doing her devotions right now. Don't bother her. It's 15, 20 minutes a day. of just, and it's just amazing. I'll snapshot and send them to people who I know need that uplift. It's not going to church or reading the Bible, for so many hours. It's, to your point, it's what you make of it, and it's how you want to have your faith and your relationship with God. So, and I truly, truly believe that my mom and my grandma were up there going, please, you've taken us with cancer, do not take her. She will do good if you just let her be with, and that's the platform that I took. I truly believe that I'm here for a purpose, and that's to continue my awareness platform with knowing that I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Well, God bless you, Sherri, and God bless your family, and I wish for only the best.
Oh, and to you too, and thank you again, and big hugs to you, because I know that going through things like this bring up, your experiences that you had. Well, so know that we're all giving you hugs together.
Well, thank you.
I know every time an anniversary or something comes around the corner, you have those breakdown moments, but then you pick yourself back up and continue the healing process. Right. Well, God bless you, Greg, and your family.
God bless you as well.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Sherri.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This week's podcast will be published on the last Thursday of October, and October is designated as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We are honored at the Unbroken Arrows podcast to be able to have highlighted Casting for Recovery the last 2 weeks. Please be sure to tune in next week when we have our final of the 3 podcast episodes that highlights Casting for Recovery. And I want to remind people that our immediate family has experienced cancer-related deaths as a result of leukemia, prostate, and ovarian cancer. It would be safe to say that every one of us has had our lives impacted by cancer in some way. At any age, if you are active, stay active. If you are not as active as you'd like to be, it is not too late to start now as a way to improve your physical and mental health. If you or someone you know is thinking of suicide or is in need of crisis intervention, call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. Additionally, here are 3 ways for veterans and their loved ones to receive confidential crisis support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Contact the Veterans Crisis Line by dialing 988, then press 1 to be connected to a Veterans Crisis Line responder. And if you'd rather, you can chat online at theveteranscrisisline.net/chat, or you can text 838255. To our listeners, take some time to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. Experience its healing powers. With that, on behalf of Catherine and me, until next time.